Okay, so imagine this. You're at your sister's wedding. Everything looks perfect. And then, bam, you get publicly humiliated in front of all the guests. And here's the kicker, you're not just any guest. Nope. You actually own the venue, and you'd covered the entire $45,000 wedding as a gift. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, stick with me, because this isn't just about embarrassment. There's a twist here that flips everything upside down, and trust me, it's way more satisfying than anyone could guess. The moment I stepped into the glass conservatory, I almost forgot how exhausted I was. The late afternoon sun streamed through the intricate ironwork of the glass ceiling, casting these delicate, lace-like shadows across the tables. I had hand-selected the soft orchestral music, something by Debussy, to drift gently through the vaulted space, and now it filled every corner, weaving with the golden light to create exactly the atmosphere I had dreamed of for 5 years. It was stunning, every detail, every flourish, exactly how I had pictured it when I signed the deed to this place. That old greenhouse that I had poured my life into. I shifted my weight from one aching heel to the other. Those 3-inch velvet stilettos, matching the maid of honor dress I had chosen weeks ago, were starting to feel like medieval torture devices. I'd been on my feet since before sunrise, checking on the florists, inspecting the catering prep, making sure every petal, every linen fold, every delicate silver detail was perfect. I had soothed my younger sister, Amelia, through at least 3 minor panic attacks that morning, reminding her to breathe, reminding her that this day was hers and hers alone. It was worth every blister, every sore muscle, every tiny ache in my body. Seeing her laugh, glowing at the head table while Owen whispered something I couldn't hear, made all the chaos, all the stress, fade into the background, if only for a moment. The Royal Botanical Package had been my gift to her, a fully comped wedding that cost me, in overhead and lost revenue, nearly $50,000. I knew she would never truly understand the hours, the planning, the sacrifices that had gone into making this day flawless. But I didn't need her to. I loved her, and I wanted her to have the fairy tale she deserved. I wanted every table draped in the heavy silver linens to sparkle in the afternoon sun, every floral arrangement to look effortless, even though behind the scenes it had taken a small army and endless late nights to make it happen. My hands, calloused from years of scrubbing floors, negotiating with contractors, and planting gardens by moonlight, now felt soft as I smoothed the silk of my dress, trying to keep my composure as maid of honor. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of fresh flowers mingled with the faint aroma of catering stations warming in the background. There was a pulse to the room that only someone who had lived and breathed this place could feel, a rhythm in the clinking of glasses, the hushed excitement of guests settling into their chairs, the subtle hum of conversation. I was both participant and observer, watching the magic I had built around me, feeling proud and protective at the same time. Every inch of this conservatory, from the polished concrete floors to the delicate ironwork above, had been meticulously curated, not just for beauty, but to evoke a feeling, a sense that anyone stepping inside had left the ordinary world behind. And yet, despite the beauty, despite the music, despite the sun catching just right on the crystal vases and polished silver, my body reminded me that I had been moving for hours without pause. My calves were tight, my feet were throbbing, and I could feel the beginnings of a headache from the constant vigilance. I had double-checked the catering orders, ensured that the wine was chilled and ready for the toast, walked through every table setting to make sure it was symmetrical, perfect, worthy of the event I had spent 5 years preparing to host. And still, in the midst of all this, there was a flutter of nerves in my stomach, a tension I couldn't shake. Not for me, not really. I had survived bigger challenges than this, but for Amelia, she was trusting me with her day, trusting me to make the impossible seem effortless. And so far, from where I stood, I had delivered. Guests milled about, admiring the setup. I caught snippets of conversation, people marveling at the sunlight streaming through the glass roof, commenting on the floral arrangements, the perfectly folded napkins, the gleam of the polished silverware. Part of me smiled, grateful that the beauty I had poured myself into was being noticed. But another part, the part that knew the hours, the money, the back-breaking work that no one saw, just tightened like a fist in my chest. I didn't need applause or recognition, but it was nice, fleetingly nice, to hear acknowledgement that the space looked effortless, when every inch of it had been carefully orchestrated to feel natural and grand at the same time. I made my way slowly toward the head table, each step a mixture of pride and exhaustion. I tried to adjust my dress as discreetly as possible, aware that the heels and hours of standing were taking a toll. I passed tables where my staff, seasoned and loyal, were buzzing quietly, making sure every drink was poured and every plate perfectly aligned. They adored me. I had fought for them, defended them from difficult clients, paid them well, and treated them with respect. They moved with the kind of synchronicity that comes from trust and familiarity. I had built this too, the culture, the teamwork, the unspoken bond that allowed a space like this to run like clockwork, even under the stress of a high-stakes wedding. The light through the conservatory shifted as the sun dipped lower, brushing golden tones across the guests' faces. The music swelled in just the right moments, and I felt a fleeting surge of relief, thinking, okay, maybe we've done it. Maybe for once, everything is exactly as it should be. The scent of fresh lilies mingled with the faint caramel and vanilla from the dessert tables, wrapping around me like a soft reminder that all the chaos of setup, all the hours of sweat and worry, had led to this moment of fleeting perfection. Amelia looked radiant at the head table, every worry she had carried this morning replaced by joy. I swallowed my own exhaustion, smiled at her from across the room, and let myself imagine she could feel the depth of what I had done, even if only subconsciously. And yet, beneath that veneer of calm, a tension hummed just below the surface. My heels pinched, my feet ached, and my body whispered that this was only the beginning of the day. But for now, I allowed myself to breathe it all in the way the sunlight caught the silver on the tables, the way the music rose and fell like a living thing, the way every single detail reflected the hours, the planning, and the love I had poured into this venue. It was beautiful, it was perfect, and it was mine. Every corner of that conservatory told the story of sacrifice, of hard work, of devotion. I had done this for Amelia, for our family, for the vision I had carried for so many years. And at that moment, standing there, balancing exhaustion with pride, I allowed myself the smallest, quiet satisfaction. Yes, this was what I had worked for. This was the dream realized. The room was alive with beauty and anticipation, and I was right at the center of it all, ready, or so I thought, for whatever came next. I had barely taken 3 steps toward the head table when Owen stood up, cutting me off like some kind of traffic cop. His hand went up, stopping me mid-stride, and I froze. He didn't smile, didn't offer a hand, didn't even glance my way with any warmth. Just that sharp, commanding look I'd seen in boardrooms on LinkedIn photos, now staring directly at me as if I was some minor inconvenience. "Sophie, hold up," he said, his voice calm but precise, the kind of tone people use when they expect immediate compliance. I blinked, confused, my stomach twisting. "What's wrong?" "Owen, do you need the schedule?" I asked, trying to mask the sudden adrenaline prickling through me. He chuckled, not a laugh. "Really? Just a dry, humorless sound, the kind that made your skin crawl and straightened his silk tie." No, he said, waving a hand. "We have a bit of a situation, Mr. Henderson and his wife just arrived. Their flight from Zurich landed early. And, well, we need to accommodate them." I nodded slowly, forcing a polite smile. "That's great. There's plenty of room at table 5. I can have staff bring in 2 extra chairs." I was used to thinking on my feet. This should have been manageable, but Owen was shaking his head dismissively, a slight smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Too far back," he said, scanning the room with a flick of his eyes that felt like dismissal. "Henderson needs to be at the front, at the head table. He needs to feel prioritized." I blinked, my heartbeat skipping. The head table was full. Just the wedding party. "Owen, there are no empty seats up there." "That's just for the bridesmaids and groomsmen." He gestured vaguely behind him. "So we're making room." "I've already moved your seat." I followed his gesture, my eyes landing on the placard that should have had my name, the elegant, hand-calligraphed Sophie. Gone. Replaced by a heavy-set man in a charcoal suit, already tucking a napkin into his collar. Beside him, his wife was squeezing into the space where the best man should have been. My throat tightened. I barely whispered. "You moved my seat. Just a chair." "Sophie, don't be dramatic," he snapped, the politeness slipping, leaving a sharp edge that sliced through the air. "Henderson is vital for my promotion. Eat later. We need this handled." The words hit me like a physical blow. My face burned, my stomach flipped, and I felt the weight of every guest's gaze, even if they didn't yet realize what had happened. The humiliation was almost tangible, hanging in the air with the soft swell of the orchestral music that now seemed cruelly ironic. He wasn't just dismissing me. He was erasing me in front of everyone. My role as maid of honor, my connection to the bride, my presence as the sister. It all meant nothing. I swallowed hard, looking toward Amelia. She was at the head table, twisting her wedding ring nervously, refusing to meet my eyes. I could see the conflict in her expression. Love for her new husband, fear of confrontation, and the dawning understanding that the humiliation she was witnessing was real and personal. It made my heart ache. Seeing her caught in the middle, powerless and distracted by her own commitment to this day. "Where am I supposed to sit?" Owen, I asked quietly, almost pleading, though the firmness in my voice betrayed my inner storm. His gaze swept the room before landing on the far corner, the double swinging doors that led to the kitchen and service alley. His manicured finger pointed with unambiguous intent. "There," he said, By the service exit, you can stand by the trash if you have to, or grab a plate and eat in the back with the rest of the staff. You're working the event anyway, aren't you? The words hung in the air, absurd and shocking. Wait, you want me to stand by the trash? I repeated, making sure I had heard correctly. My voice barely a whisper, trembling but steady enough for the few nearby to notice. Yes, he said, waving at Mr. Henderson as though I were invisible. Just handle it and refill my wine when necessary. The room seemed to hold its breath. The music continued, but the soft, soothing strains felt like mockery now. I could see a few glances from staff nearby Marco, my head of catering, and Sarah, the floor manager, exchanging wide-eyed looks of disbelief. They adored me, had always defended me, and now were witnessing the moment I was being cast aside like I was part of the furniture, like my years of work, my blood, sweat, and sacrifices for this space meant nothing. I stood frozen, my body taut, staring at Owen's expensive tuxedo as he laughed at something Henderson whispered. Betrayal clawed through me, not just the loss of a chair, not the absurdity of standing near trash, but the realization that, in his eyes, and apparently my sister's too, I wasn't family. I wasn't even a guest. I was staff. I was disposable. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to storm the room and demand acknowledgement, but I didn't. I had to maintain composure, dignity, and control. I had built this space, this reputation, from scratch. A scene here, a meltdown, would only make Owen look like a victim of my jealousy. I took a slow, shuddering breath and turned from the head table, ignoring the crush of emotion that threatened to buckle me. Marco stepped forward cautiously, worry etched on his face. "Everything okay, Miss Sophie?" I forced a small, calm nod. "I'm fine," I said, my voice steady though my ears were ringing. "And sure, mister, Henderson gets the VIP wine service. Let's not disappoint the groom." Marco's jaw tightened. "You can't be serious." "I know what he said," I replied softly. "Do it. I'm heading to my office. Do not disturb me unless the building is on fire." The room remained charged with tension as I navigated the perimeter. Every step measured. Some guests were watching, confused. Why was the maid of honor walking away just before the speeches others didn't understand? But a few perceptive eyes caught the tension in my stance, the quiet fury in my posture. I passed table 2, where Abigail, Owen's mother, was holding court among the high society crowd. She didn't even lower her voice when she spoke to her sister. "Well, it makes sense," she said, loud enough for me to catch. "She's used to running around in the background. Honestly, it would look strange to have her up there with the important people. So utilitarian." Her cruel smile made my stomach twist. I didn't respond, didn't flinch, just kept walking toward the administrative wing, the office that felt like a sanctuary. Inside, the silence was sudden and heavy, the muffled laughter, the clinking glasses, and the low hum of conversation from the reception faded a million miles away. I sank into my leather executive chair, kicked off my heel, and let the physical relief wash over me. But the emotional pain was jagged, sharp, a thudding ache in my chest that no amount of deep breathing could soothe. I glanced at the CCTV monitors, and there he was, Owen, pouring wine for Henderson, laughing like nothing had happened, and Amelia, small and terrified, stealing glances toward the door I had just exited. My chest tightened further. She wasn't defending me. She was managing the disaster as best she could. But the cold reality settled over me. I was alone in this battle. A text from Amelia popped up. "I'm so sorry. Please don't be mad. Maybe grab a chair from the vendor room. Love you." I stared at it in disbelief. A metal folding chair. This was the moment I realized it wasn't just about a seat or my pride. It was about recognition, respect, and the utter lack thereof. My sister wanted me to swallow the humiliation so she could keep playing her fairy tale role. I looked around my office, letting my eyes fall on the filing cabinet and the folder marked Miller Vance Wedding. Everything, the contracts, the invoices, the clauses I had painstakingly written into every agreement, reminded me that I wasn't powerless here. Owen had underestimated me, underestimated the leverage I had as the venue owner, and that realization, that sudden clarity, shifted something deep inside me. I was not just maid of honor, I was landlord, and this time, I wasn't going to be treated like anything less than that. To really understand why that moment with Owen cut so deep, you need to know where I came from. We didn't have money growing up. Our dad worked the factory line. Our mom waited tables until her knees gave out. I was the oldest, 7 years ahead of Amelia, which meant that when our parents died in a car accident just after she turned 19, I became everything to her: parent, provider, protector. I didn't have time to grieve properly. My sister needed me, and I wasn't going to let anything fall apart on my watch. I was 26, barely scraping by as a junior event coordinator, when I used what little inheritance we had and took out a terrifying business loan to buy a dilapidated greenhouse on the edge of the city. Everyone told me I was crazy. A wedding venue there would never work, they said, but I could see the potential, the bones of something incredible hidden beneath dust and neglect. I didn't sleep for years, scrubbing floors, planting gardens by moonlight, negotiating with contractors until my voice was raw, until every inch of that glass conservatory reflected the exact vision I had in my head. I did it all so Amelia and I would never have to worry again. So she could have a life I never had, free from the fear and struggle that had defined our early years. I supported Amelia in every way I could. Her education, her dreams, her happiness. I paid for her teaching degree, bought her first car, made sure she never felt the financial pinch I felt every day. I wanted her life to feel easy, seamless, magical. And maybe I did such a good job that she never fully grasped the grind, the hustle, the sacrifices that had gone into giving her those opportunities. She grew up thinking things just worked out, never seeing the reality behind the curtain. Then she met Owen Vance, perfectly polished, the kind of finance guy who looked like he belonged in a magazine. Slicked back hair, unnaturally white teeth, a handshake that felt like a challenge. I tried to like him. Really, I did. I wanted to. I wanted my sister to be happy. But from our very first dinner, the red flags were waving like neon signs. "So, you run a party hall?" he asked, swirling his scotch. I corrected him politely. "I own a luxury event venue." "Right. Catering and napkins." "Cute," he said dismissively, waving a hand like my life's work was a trivial hobby. His mother, Abigail, was another story. She wore old money like armor, treating Amelia like a quaint little project, something to display to the world. And me, I was invisible, a servant in their eyes, someone to manipulate and criticize at whim. When the wedding planning began, I made the mistake of offering the venue as a gift. I wanted Amelia to have the fairy tale experience, to feel like every princess story she ever imagined had come true. But Abigail treated it like an opportunity to micromanage and insult. "We'll take the platinum package," she said at the first planning meeting, not even glancing at the price sheet. "But, Sophie, dear, we need to change the draping. The standard silk is pedestrian, and the menu, no chicken. Owen only eats steak, and we need lobster for the appetizers. That adds $30 per head." I tried to gently guide them, suggesting alternatives or explaining costs, but Owen snapped at the table, eyes glued to his phone. "It's a tax write-off for you anyway, isn't it? Just get the lobster. We want this to be classy." For 6 months, I swallowed insult after insult, absorbing their criticisms, taking their demands personally yet silently, because Amelia's happiness was worth it. She would look at me with those big, tearful eyes and say, "Sophie, please. He just wants it to be perfect. He loves me. Please do it for me." So I did it. I worked 18-hour days, calling in favors from vendors I had known for years, crafting a wedding worth nearly $100,000 for zero cost to them. I planned every detail, ensured the florists were perfect, the catering seamless, the music flowing just right. I shielded Amelia from every stress, every budget concern, every back-of-house complication that might have pulled her out of the dream she wanted to live. And how did they repay me? By erasing me from the head table, by treating me like a non-entity in the room I had built, in front of every guest who had come to celebrate my sister's happiness. Owen had no idea, no concept of the world I came from or the effort that had gone into every brick, every iron scroll, every polished concrete floor. He thought power came from a title, from a leased BMW, from impressing a boss. He had called me staff. He had told me to stand by the trash. He didn't see the hundreds of hours, the sweat, the late nights, the silent sacrifices that had made this venue a sanctuary, a legacy, a monument to both ambition and love. That was why the humiliation burned so fiercely. It wasn't just a chair, not just a moment. It was an erasure of every part of my life I had poured into making Amelia's day perfect. My sister, safe. Our dreams, tangible. I remember sitting in my office later, heels off, letting my back sink into the leather chair, thinking about all those years. The cold efficiency of Owen's dismissal couldn't erase the memory of me. 26, standing in a dusty greenhouse with a hammer in my hand, staring up at broken glass panes and thinking, one day this will be something extraordinary. I had built everything from scratch. I had carried my sister, our dreams, and our family legacy on my shoulders. And here he was, acting like a spat over a seat could negate all of that. The betrayal wasn't just the move, the words, the public humiliation. It was the disregard for the effort, for the love, for the very history of our lives together. Looking back, the red flags had been obvious from the start: dismissive comments, subtle belittling, constant prioritization of his own convenience and image over anyone else's comfort. But at the time, I had swallowed them because it was Amelia's happiness that mattered. I had ignored the small, corrosive incidents, rationalized the microaggressions, brushed off the faint edges of entitlement. I had tried to see the good in him, tried to like him, tried to protect Amelia from my own doubts. But each small slight, each quiet insult had been a brick in a wall of disrespect that he eventually knocked down in one swift, humiliating motion on the day I had given everything for her. This is what made that moment by the head table so visceral. It wasn't simply about my place at the wedding or even my pride. It was about years of sacrifice, about the effort to create something meaningful, about the countless moments I had swallowed anger or fatigue to ensure Amelia never had to feel the weight of our past. It was about seeing that all of it could be dismissed in a heartbeat by someone who thought a title or a desk job could replace the reality of life's grit, the blood, sweat, and love that had built the foundation beneath us. And yet, even with the sting, the ache, the betrayal, I understood one crucial truth in that moment. This wasn't just personal, it was also professional. Everything I had built, every lesson learned from grinding through adversity, every contract, every policy, every relationship with my staff and vendors, gave me a kind of leverage Owen could never touch. I was more than maid of honor, more than sister. I was the architect of this entire day, the owner of the venue, the one who had the ultimate control, even if he thought otherwise. That knowledge, hard-earned and coldly precise, was my anchor amid the humiliation. I let myself take a slow breath, the kind that moves through every tense muscle and acknowledges the hurt but doesn't give it power. Owen could try to dismiss me, belittle me, humiliate me in front of everyone, but he couldn't erase the life I had built, the legacy I had created, or the years I had spent ensuring Amelia never had to experience the hardship I had endured. And that, I realized, was the quiet power that would eventually shift the day, and the story entirely in my favor. After the initial shock of Owen's dismissal and the cruel gesture of my seat being moved, something inside me clicked. I realized that panic, anger, or tears wouldn't fix this. If anything, they'd play right into his narrative. So I took a deep, shuddering breath, turned on my heel, and made my way to the office. The double doors swung closed behind me, shutting out the soft music, the laughter, and the murmurs of confusion from the guests. The sudden silence felt almost sacred, a moment of clarity amid chaos. I sank into my leather chair, letting my body finally relax as my heels came off. The throbbing in my feet was still there, but it was secondary now. My mind was sharp, running through every detail I had at my disposal. I reached for the filing cabinet, sliding open the drawer labeled Miller Vance Wedding, and pulled out the thick folder. The contracts, the invoices, the clauses I had painstakingly included to protect my venue and my staff. They were all right there. A map of control in a room where Owen had just tried to assert dominance. I flipped through the pages until I reached the fine print, the clauses I had drafted for situations just like this. Clause 14.3. A strict code of conduct and harassment policy, prohibiting verbal abuse, humiliation, or mistreatment of venue, staff, or management, and granting the venue the right to terminate services immediately without refund or comp. Clause 14.4 detailed that in the event of termination under 14.3, any comped or discounted services became immediately payable in full. Reading the words on the page, I felt the first flicker of empowerment in hours. Owen had crossed these lines, publicly humiliating me, dismissing me, instructing me to stand by the service exit near the trash that was exactly the kind of violation these clauses covered. I leaned back in the chair, closing my eyes briefly, letting the weight of that realization settle in. This wasn't about revenge or drama. This was about professionalism. It was about recognizing that the chaos outside Owen's arrogance, the shocked murmurs of the guests, the silent confusion of my sister was irrelevant. The power lay here, in these documents, in my knowledge, and in my strategic positioning. I was the owner, the authority in this room, and I could act decisively without losing composure. I picked up my phone and sent a quick text to Marco, my head of catering, and Sarah, the floor manager. Bring me the incident logs, full documentation of today's events. We need everything written down, within minutes. They arrived, both visibly tense but ready. Marco carried the silver tray with a printed log of incidents, while Sarah held a notebook, detailing interactions that had gone beyond normal client demands. I gestured for them to sit, sliding the folder across the desk. Every rude comment, every unreasonable demand, every breach of conduct. Write it all down, exactly as it happened. Their pens moved immediately, fingers flying over paper. Marco recounted every moment where Owen had snapped or belittled staff, every complaint over food or service, every time he had tried to manipulate the flow of the event. Sarah's hands shook slightly as she documented Abigail's comments about the servers, including the cruel and discriminatory remarks that had gone unnoticed by guests. Each line they wrote confirmed what I had already known. This wasn't just a personal insult. It was a violation of contract, of trust, of the integrity of my venue. It was a professional matter, and I had every right to act. I watched them work, taking slow, controlled breaths, allowing myself to feel the sharp clarity that comes when strategy replaces shock. I realized that the room outside, with its soft music and elegant decorations, was irrelevant. The power dynamics were mine to navigate. I wasn't the maid of honor in that moment. I wasn't the sister trying to please a loved one or avoid a confrontation. I was a business owner enforcing her rights, protecting her property, her staff, and the principles that kept her business running. As Marco and Sarah documented the incidents, I reviewed the contract again, mentally mapping out the exact leverage I had. This wasn't about petty revenge or public spectacle. It was about professional accountability. Owen had assumed that because I was family, because I had gifted the wedding, he could act without consequence. He had forgotten that I had built this business from scratch, had protected it with airtight contracts, and had the resources and the documentation to enforce them. His arrogance had blinded him, and my clarity allowed me to see the path forward. I paused, imagining the head table outside. The guests, oblivious to the depth of the violation, would perceive only a slight tension. But I knew the truth. I knew the breach. And I also knew that once I acted, there would be no ambiguity about who held authority here. I leaned forward, running a hand over the printed incident log, thinking through the steps I would take, inform Owen calmly, present the contract, enforce the clauses, and ensure my staff and my venue were respected. No shouting, no dramatics, just professional precision paired with the undeniable power of ownership. I could feel a subtle shift inside me as I formulated the plan. The storm of embarrassment and anger began to dissipate, replaced with a cold, strategic calm. I was no longer reacting emotionally. Every action, every word, every step would be calculated, and every move would reinforce the control I had. I realized that Owen had underestimated me, that his display of dominance was exactly the opening I needed. My calm was my weapon, and the chaos outside only reinforced the contrast. For a moment, I allowed myself a quiet acknowledgement of the work it had taken to reach this point. The conservatory, the contracts, the staff I had built, the years of sacrifice, it all led to this. The power wasn't in yelling, it wasn't in confronting him in anger. It was in the careful construction of systems, the foresight to protect the venue, and the wisdom to recognize the exact moment to assert that authority. Everything I had done, every sleepless night, every painstaking detail of preparation had prepared me for this confrontation. I felt a strange satisfaction, knowing that the humiliation outside had unwittingly highlighted just how necessary and well-planned my response would be. I looked at Marco and Sarah one more time, their faces set and determined, and felt a sense of solidarity. We were aligned, prepared, and ready. My inner calm contrasted sharply with the chaos outside the head table. The murmuring guests, the oblivious couple who thought power came from title or money. I understood now, fully, that the leverage wasn't in intimidation or public spectacle. It was in knowledge, preparation, and the quiet authority of someone who owned both the contract and the space. That understanding, that quiet, professional certainty, was a fortress. And from that fortress, I could act with precision. I leaned back, closing my eyes briefly, feeling the clarity settle over me. The chaos outside was noise, inconsequential against the structured certainty of my position. I had the facts, I had the documentation, and I had the right to enforce them. Owen's attempt to humiliate me had revealed his miscalculation, and I now held the key to correct it. There was no need for rash action or impulsive emotion. The leverage, the clarity, the calm, all of it was mine. And with that realization, the next steps became obvious. Gather evidence, assert authority, and act professionally but firmly. The day that had begun with humiliation was about to be redirected entirely, and this time, the control was in my hands. When I opened the office door to confront Owen, the air between us felt electric, thick with tension. He followed, slamming it shut behind him, the sound echoing like a warning. His face was red, part disbelief, part irritation, and I could see the faint flicker of fear hidden under the surface. Though he clearly hadn't realized it yet, he took a step closer, voice tight, brimming with anger. "Sophie, what are you doing? We're in the middle of speeches. You're insane. It's a free wedding." I didn't flinch. I let him pause, let the moment hang, heavy and suffocating. Then, calmly, almost casually, I slid the invoice across the desk toward him. The cursor hovered over the comped field, the 100% discount glaringly obvious until I had deleted it. "It was a free wedding," I said evenly, meeting his eyes. "It was contingent on you treating me and my staff with basic human decency. You failed." He stared at the paper like I'd slapped him with it. "This. You can't charge me. We had an agreement. You said it was a gift." His voice cracked with disbelief, his usual smugness faltering. I leaned back, still calm, my voice measured but firm. "The gift," I said, letting the words hang, "was conditional. Clause 14.3 of the contract, which you signed and initialed, explicitly forbids verbal abuse, humiliation, or mistreatment of venue staff or management. You crossed every line." Owen laughed a sharp, Incredulous bark. You're joking. This is ridiculous. You're trying to extort me over a chair. I shook my head slowly, allowing the quiet fury beneath my composed exterior to show just slightly. It wasn't a chair. It wasn't a joke. You told me to stand by the trash. You told Marco and Sarah to get out. Your mother made racist remarks to my staff. Those are all documented breaches. And they're not just infractions, they're violations that make the comped services void. That's clause 14.4. His face shifted from disbelief to frustration, the muscles in his jaw tightening. Sophie, you can't be serious. I'm Amelia's husband. You can't do this on her wedding day. You're going to ruin everything. I exhaled slowly, letting the calm professionalism I had cultivated over years of running the venue settle into my posture. I'm serious, and this isn't about ruining a wedding. It's about honoring an agreement you signed. If the invoice isn't paid, the event is over. Bar closes, music stops. Security will escort anyone not respecting the terms out. That includes you. Owen, his face drained of color as his eyes darted briefly toward the open office door, the sound of muffled confusion and halted music from the reception echoing faintly down the hall. You wouldn't dare, he hissed, incredulous. Amelia would never forgive you. She would never allow this. I stood, straightening my dress, the heels forgotten under the desk. Amelia isn't the one who humiliated me. Owen, you wanted to impress Mr. Henderson. You wanted to show off. This is about professionalism, about respect, about boundaries. Pay the invoice or leave. It's that simple. For a moment, he just stared at me, chest heaving, as if trying to reconcile the man he thought he was with the reality in front of him. I could see the calculations racing behind his eyes. Credit cards maxed, condo payments looming, a promotion that depended on appearances, and suddenly, the confident, arrogant facade cracked just enough to reveal the panic beneath. I can't pay this right now, he stammered, voice dropping, anger giving way to desperation. I don't have it on me. I tilted my head slightly, maintaining eye contact, letting the silence hang. Then, call your mother, I said quietly. My voice was firm, professional, utterly devoid of malice, but each word carried the weight of authority and inevitability. The clock was ticking. Every second counted. Owen turned, reddening further, muttering under his breath. Unbelievable. You really are trying to ruin this, aren't you? Jealousy. It's a jealous move. I cut him off, stepping closer, lowering my voice so that it was intimate, insistent. This isn't jealousy. This is business. And it's personal only in the sense that you made it personal by violating the contract in my venue. You humiliated me. You disrespected my staff. And now you're facing the consequences. His hand hovered over the invoice, as if touching it might make it vanish. This is absurd, he said, shaking his head. You're bluffing. You wouldn't humiliate your own sister like this. I shook my head again, slowly, the calm inside me unbroken. I'm not bluffing. You've forgotten who owns this space. You've treated it as though your ego grants you immunity. But the rules are written, signed, and enforceable. You agreed to them. You have violated them. This is about accountability. Owen, you can either honor it or the event ends now. He took a step back, jaw tightening, the first signs of fear creeping in. He muttered something about lawyers, lawsuits, threats to ruin me. I ignored the empty posturing. Instead, I gestured to the incident log Marco and Sarah had meticulously compiled. Here, read it. Every insult, every unreasonable demand, every discriminatory comment from your mother, documented, signed, witnessed. This isn't a game. This is professional responsibility. And if the invoice isn't settled immediately, enforcement is automatic. He swallowed hard, face paling, realizing the depth of the bind he was in. He tried one last angle, a desperate, weak attempt to appeal to family loyalty. Sophie, Amelia, she wouldn't allow this. You can't do this to me in front of everyone. I crossed my arms, my voice unwavering. Amelia wasn't the one who ordered me to stand by the trash. Amelia didn't laugh while you humiliated my staff. Amelia isn't breaching a contract she signed. You are. So this isn't about her. It's about you, your choices, your actions. The invoice reflects the services you've used, the breach you caused, and the obligations you agreed to. You can pay, or the event ends. It's that simple. Security and management are prepared to act immediately. His eyes flicked toward the office door, then the hallway beyond, the reality of my preparation settling in. My calm, deliberate professionalism, the printed contract, the detailed incident logs, the knowledge that every action had been documented, all of it, formed an unassailable wall. He realized, finally, that this wasn't a tantrum or a petty reaction. It was enforcement. It was leverage. And he was cornered. I need to, he began, faltering mid-sentence. I don't have the funds here. Call your mother. I repeated, steady, unmoved. The invoice sat on the desk, bold, clear, and final. Credit card, wire transfer, certified check, immediate payment, or the event is over. No exceptions. No arguments. You brought this on yourself. Owen's face twisted with frustration, disbelief, and a dawning panic. He seemed to weigh options that didn't exist. Every ounce of his confidence eroded as he realized that the room, outside the head table, the guests, the music, was irrelevant. The real power lay here, in my hands, with the contract, the documentation, the professional authority I commanded. The facade of control he had clung to for months was gone. Abigail burst into the office seconds later, following Owen, her expression a mix of fury and confusion. She began shrieking about lawsuits and threats. I cut her off without raising my voice, pulling out a second file containing her own past professional missteps. I know exactly who you are, Abigail, I said calmly. This is a business matter. Owen violated the venue's harassment policy. The comp is void, pay the invoice, or the event ends. Now, Owen's protest turned to stammering, pointing, trying to grab Amelia's attention. Amelia's expression was one of shock, slowly realizing the truth of the situation. I kept my posture steady, my gaze firm, letting the weight of my professionalism and preparation speak louder than any shouting. For the first time, Owen wasn't in control. He was reacting, cornered, and I was the one dictating the pace, the terms, and the consequences. The standoff was tense, almost cinematic, but every element was grounded in reality contracts, documentation, staff loyalty, and the calm authority I wielded. The power wasn't in yelling, threats, or emotional manipulation. It was in leverage, preparation, and unwavering professionalism. And in that moment, I knew that Owen's next move, whatever it was would be dictated by the undeniable reality of what he had done and what he had agreed to. The moment Owen and Abigail were escorted out by the security team, the tension in the venue shifted palpably. The massive, granite-like guards moved with deliberate efficiency, flanking them through the double doors, and the room collectively exhaled. Owen struggled, flailing his arms, his protests fading into the distance as he was led toward the exit, while Abigail trailed behind, shooting daggers at me with every step. I stood firm, watching them go, feeling a quiet satisfaction mixed with the adrenaline that had kept me taut for hours. Amelia walked toward me, her face pale but her eyes clear, the shock of what had just happened settling into awe and relief. She wrapped her arms around me in a tight, genuine hug, whispering, "I'm so sorry, Sophie. I didn't know it would go this far." I held her close, brushing a stray lock of hair from her forehead. "You didn't ruin anything?" You dodged a bullet, a really expensive, narcissistic-shaped bullet. That's all." She laughed through her tears, a ragged, trembling sound that was almost musical in its release. And I felt the weight of the day start to lift, just a little. The guests were still processing. Some whispered to each other, wide-eyed. Others simply shook their heads in disbelief. But the atmosphere had changed. What had been tense, awkward, and humiliating was now infused with a sense of order restored. The staff, who had been watching quietly, exchanged subtle glances and smiles of relief, their loyalty and admiration for the way I handled the situation evident in the way they moved about. Marco and Sarah lingered nearby, their expressions a mix of pride and amazement, knowing they had supported me in enforcing a standard that protected both them and the integrity of the venue. I took a moment to survey the space. The flowers were still perfectly arranged, the cake untouched, the linens crisp and gleaming. The music, soft and orchestral moments ago, had paused briefly during the chaos, but now it returned, filling the air with gentle notes, and the lighting soft and warm reminded me that this place, my labor of love, remained beautiful and intact. I realized that my control, my professionalism, and my dedication had preserved not just the physical space, but the dignity of everyone involved. I called my team together, gathering the kitchen staff, the DJs, the valets, and everyone who had been on the floor all day. "We're having a party," I announced, voice light but firm, a command that carried both authority and relief. "Everyone, take a break, eat, drink, dance. Tonight isn't over for us." Their faces lit up, smiles breaking out across tired features, and the energy in the room shifted again, this time towards celebration. We feasted on filet mignon, lobster tails, and the vintage champagne meant for the toast, laughing freely for the first time since morning. Amelia danced with Marco, my sister laughing without worry, and I joined the dishwasher on the floor, spinning around to 80s pop hits instead of the classical playlist Owen had insisted upon. It felt like reclaiming joy, taking back the day that had almost been ruined by entitlement and arrogance. Later, in the quiet aftermath, Amelia and I sat together on the edge of the stage. She wiped at her tears, but her smile was genuine now, reflective. "I don't know what I would have done without you," she admitted. I put an arm around her shoulders. "You were there. We both survived this. And the important thing is we know how to protect ourselves. Sometimes that means letting people see the consequences of their actions. Her laugh was soft, relieved, and for a moment, the tension of the day melted away entirely. The following morning, the fallout began. Owen tried to fight the venue charge with his credit card company, claiming the services weren't rendered. I sent over the signed contract, the incident log, and video evidence of his behavior. The chargeback was denied within days, a small but satisfying reinforcement that professionalism and preparation mattered. 2 weeks later, Amelia received a call from a friend who worked at Owen's firm. He had been let go. His behavior had not impressed Mr. Henderson, and rumors about margin calls and poor judgment had followed him into the real world. Abigail, humiliated by the wedding debacle, retreated from public life, her social standing quietly eroded by whispers that no charity gala could erase. Amelia moved back in with me temporarily, and we spent quiet evenings planning her next steps, drinking wine, laughing over small moments of absurdity that had happened the day before. She went back to school to pursue her master's in education, a path Owen had once dismissed as a waste of time. She even started dating again, this time someone who treated her and everyone else with genuine respect. Meanwhile, the glass conservatory thrived. Clients knew two things: the most exquisite weddings in the state were held here, and disrespect was never tolerated. The story of that day became a quiet legend in our circles. Vendors, colleagues, and even clients referenced it, often with a wry smile. But for me, it wasn't about reputation alone. It was about validation, yes, but also closure, the knowledge that years of sacrifice, effort, and devotion to both my sister and my business had not been in vain. I had protected what mattered, enforced what was right, and preserved dignity for everyone involved. One afternoon, about 6 months later, I walked through the main hall, checking the spring floral arrangements, the sunlight streaming through the glass roof, just as it had on that unforgettable day. I paused at the head table, looking at the chair where I had been forced to sit by the service exit. I smiled. I didn't need a seat at someone else's table. I had built the table, the venue, the day, and ultimately, the control over both my life and my sister's happiness. That realization, that quiet victory, was far more satisfying than any forced smile or toast could ever be. I breathed in the familiar scents, the polished wood, the fresh flowers, the faint sweetness of pastry from the kitchen, and felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Amelia was safe, the venue intact, my staff valued, and the boundaries I had fought to enforce respected. I had faced humiliation, disbelief, and even threats, but I had navigated them all with calm authority and unwavering strategy. The aftershock had revealed not weakness, but strength, and that strength had set both my sister and me free. The conservatory, bathed in sunlight, seemed to shimmer with a quiet, unspoken approval. I had built this legacy brick by brick, season by season, and now it stood, not only as a testament to my labor, but as a symbol of resilience, respect, and the triumph of professionalism and moral clarity. I realized that day, more than any celebration or accolade, that control, preparation, and unwavering standards were what truly safeguarded everything that mattered. And with that, I knew that the future, my future, Amelia's future, and the continued life of the conservatory was secure, vibrant, and ready for whatever came next. So, That's how it all went down. What started as humiliation turned into a lesson in respect, boundaries, and knowing your worth. The wedding may have been chaotic, but in the end, control and preparation won the day. My sister and I walked away stronger. The staff celebrated, and the venue stood as a testament to hard work and perseverance. Sometimes, standing firm is the only way to protect what matters. Thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride.